carrying on reading out an old educational psychology stage 3 summative report from back when I was at primary school. So I just thought it might be interesting. I've done it a very, 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 very long time ago. I did once read this out, I think, but it's a very long time ago, so some of you might not have seen that video, so I just thought I'd read it out again, basically. And then it's got little sections. Gross and fine motor skills. The previous occupational therapy report covers all aspects of Anna's gross and fine motor skill development. I don't know where that occupational therapy report is, and I really wish I had it, because I asked my mum, I said, where is the old occupational therapy report they mentioned in here? My mum couldn't find it, so that was when my mum was still alive, and so I don't know if we have it somewhere. It's annoying, because I really would quite be interested to read it, but I've only got this report, so I don't know where that one is. On observation, fine motor skills seemed adequate. Her writing was legible and clearly produced. Yeah, it's interesting because when I look at my old writing from back when I was at primary school, some of it was really, really neat, and I think I spent a lot of time. I used to write really slowly because I was quite a perfectionist, and I look at some of my old handwriting and I think, that is so, my handwriting now is so messy. I look at it back then, I think, that was so neat, why can't I write like that now? But I think it's because I spent such a long time really trying to hone my handwriting, and my mum also spent a lot of time doing handwriting practice with me. She got those books out with lines where you practice writing really nice handwriting in the lines, and she used to do that a lot with me. But yeah, when I look back at my handwriting from when I was at primary school, I think it's so neat. Why can't I write like that now? Because now my handwriting is so messy, but I think that can sometimes happen as you get older and you just get more sloppy with it. And also, if I write really quickly, my handwriting gets really messy, but I can write neatly if I spend time over it. It's just, yeah. But anyway, I remember at primary school when they moved over one of those, those blue pens. They were like blue ink pens, like you first of all wrote in pencil, and then you transitioned onto those blue pens when your handwriting was of a certain quality. And I remember getting so excited when I got one of those blue pens, and how nice it was to write with it, and I wanted to write so neatly, and I spent so much time with it. Again, in year 6, if you got a fountain pen, you transitioned onto a fountain pen, finally. So, Anna can ride a bike, but has difficulty with coordinating her limbs for swimming. It was reported by parents. Yeah, I've never learned how to swim without armbands. I could swim with armbands, not without armbands, and I never... But again, I had some bad experiences at school with swimming, which didn't help. And then they didn't want me to go swimming anymore. The head teacher tried to stop me going swimming, and my dad was furious about that because he felt that was really exclusionary, which it was. They just didn't want me going swimming. I mean, that was really bad. But yeah. Speech and language skills. Although Anna was quiet during assessment, her speech was well articulated and comprehensible. She listened well to instructions. Test behaviour. Anna, a petite girl, showed an ability to concentrate and persist at tasks. You see, that's why I sometimes doubt whether I have ADHD, because it says there that I showed an ability to concentrate and persist at tasks. I think, well, if I had to have ADHD, then would I be able to do that? But I don't know. Again, I also was very hyperactive as a kid, but I do sometimes wonder whether that's more autism, though. But obviously it was very kind of specific to certain situations. I was obviously here on my best behaviour, clearly, and I was probably not consciously masking. I wasn't aware that I started to consciously mask until I was like a teenager, but clearly I was trying my hardest to be on my best behaviour, obviously. So maybe, I'm not sure if it was masking as such, but kind of clearly trying to be on my best behaviour. Interestingly, oh yeah, she cooperated fully throughout the assessment. She seemed rather lacking in confidence at times. Eye contact was felt to be good, however. That's really funny, because earlier on the teacher said, as it says in the earlier part of my report, it says eye contact was poor and self-confidence low. So that suggests to me that in the classroom, because that's obviously a teacher observation, eye contact was poor. Well, in a classroom, it's like a very busy environment, and I think obviously a child is going to appear differently in a classroom with lots going on around. Like an autistic kid is going to appear differently in a classroom with lots going around. Let's say one-to-one in a quiet room with an assessor. So the fact that they said here my eye contact was good suggests that maybe I didn't feel as kind of anxious in that setting, maybe. And it's also possible, yeah, so that's probably what it was. But it also makes me wonder how they judge eye contact, because I'm not sure I was actually looking directly in their eyes. I never looked directly at people in their eyes. It's probably more that I was looking in their direction, so it looked like I was making eye contact, sort of thing. But yeah, it's just interesting. So two different things there. Eye contact felt to be good, eye contact was poor. A little bit of a discrepancy going on. And then they did an assessment, which is the cognitive assessment, which was basically the WISC-3. That's now been replaced, by the way, because it's a child version. The WISC-3. So they separate it into two scales. It's like a verbal scales and then a performance scale. So you have, in a verbal scales, you have information, general knowledge, similarities, verbal reasoning, arithmetic, mental arithmetic, vocabulary, ability to give a word definition. So on information, general knowledge, I got a scale score of 14. On similarities, verbal reasoning, I got a scale score of 12. On arithmetic, mental arithmetic, I got a scale score of 6. On vocabulary, ability to give a word definition, a scale score of 12. But again, a performance scale, picture completion, that's visual attention and simple reasoning, was only 3. Coding, eye-hand coordination, visual accuracy was 10, so that was actually the best one out of those. Interesting. Picture arrangement, visual sequencing was only 2. Block design. You see, I'm not a stereotypical autistic. I'm supposed to be good at these things, being autistic, right? But no, I'm not stereotypical here. Abstract spatial reasoning, I only got 2. So percentile, the verbal scale, which was in the 63rd, so that was 99 to 111, which is high average. I have since had another one of these cognitive assessments as an adult. Now my verbal is in a highly superior range. The IQ level has jumped massively, and now it's like 138 or something. I was like, how did that happen? I think I've just become a lot more verbally intelligent through reading all those books and university education, and that's a whole other story because I only got to university because of all the help I had. But clearly my IQ, at least on the verbal side, has massively jumped up. So all those people who say, you can't move up IQ, it's not true. I mean, I'm a case in point. My verbal has gone, I mean, it was high average, which wasn't bad, just high average, nothing spectacular, but now it's gone up. Although I don't feel that intelligent, but it has massively gone up. My performance scale hasn't, by the way. My performance is still really low. So that was high average, as assessed back when I was a kid, 63rd percentile. The performance scale, though, was only on the 1st percentile, 58 to 74. So that's basically in the intellectually disabled range, below average. Anything below 70, by the way, is intellectually disabled. So performance scale, so it's kind of a split profile, really. So as it says here, no full scale score can be quoted because of the significant difference between the two scales. So they couldn't give me a full IQ because the full IQ would be worthless, because what they do is they round up the scores, and I'd get a score. I don't know what it would amount to. It'd probably be something like in the 80s region, which wouldn't actually reflect my true intelligence, because it would look like I'm not that intelligent, or that I've got low average intelligence. What it wouldn't take account of is the fact that verbally I am actually intelligent, verbally. Like my verbal reasoning's really good, I can talk really well. So, it would give a score which wouldn't reflect that I am intelligent in some areas. Because of that really, really, really low performance IQ would drag down the whole IQ, and that wouldn't actually reflect the general picture. In fact, I've got this really, really, really spiky profile. Now, that is quite classic in autism, to have a spiky profile. It's just that in my case, it's the verbal that's elevated and the performance which is repressed. Whereas in non-verbal autistics, it's often the other way round. In non-verbal autistics, often their non-verbal is higher than their verbal. But yeah, my profile is the verbal is high because I've got that non-verbal learning disability profile, where the non-verbal is learning disabled, but the verbal is really high. So that's why they couldn't give me a complete score, because it just wouldn't mean anything. Now, okay, so here we have the standard score, basic reading 114. So the basic reading came out as 15 years, bearing in mind I was aged 10 and a half when I was assessed. So my basic reading was a lot higher than my chronological age. My ability to read, and indeed I could read really fast, without actually understanding what I was reading. Spelling is age appropriate, 10 years, so about the same age as I was, more or less. Reading comprehension, though, was 9 years, so I was 10 and a half. So reading comprehension was lagging below my actual age, bearing in mind, of course, the discrepancy. It's not just that, it's also the discrepancy between my comprehension and the fact that my basic reading was at the age of 15. So it might not sound much, but that's not much below my chronological age, but you've got to remember that this is relative to the fact that my reading age was so advanced. Now that is unusual, to have a reading age at 5 years advanced, but your comprehension lagging massively behind that. You'd expect that your comprehension would be at the same level as your reading age. So that suggests there's a problem going on here. Almost 2 years behind for reading comprehension. Bear in mind I was 10 and a half when this was done. So yeah, okay, isn't it? Almost 2 years behind, yeah. Anna functioned at high average levels on all verbal subtests except mental arithmetic. She demonstrated good general knowledge, verbal reasoning and vocabulary skills. Non-verbally, apart from on the coding subtest, Anna demonstrated severe perception and spatial difficulties. She also had problems with visual memory and visual sequencing. Now, it's funny when I say visual memory, because I often think my visual memory is actually pretty good, but I think the visual memory they were assessing here was more to do with kind of like short-term kind of working memory, visual memory, like kind of trying to find where things are located and like remembering shapes and stuff. My long-term visual memory, for example, Google Maps, I can actually remember really, really well. Like I am actually quite visual in terms of my actual memory processes, but I think that my problem is to do with organising that information. But that's a whole other topic anyway. Because they only assess certain aspects of visual memory. I think that parts of my visual memory are impaired, but parts are actually really good, and it depends what they're assessing. She also had I said that. It is likely that her number skill difficulty is linked to her spatial and perception problems. Because I've since been diagnosed with severe dyscalculia, but that was only as an adult. But obviously because they didn't actually give me any official diagnoses when I was a child, they were just like listing the problems. But obviously that was clearly what it was. That was what I was later diagnosed with, severe dyscalculia. But I got that as an adult anyway. I had to go privately for that. Overall, the differences between Anna's scores on the verbal and the non-verbal ability test is highly significant. Her problems in non-verbal tests would indicate probable difficulties with practical aspects of the national curriculum, i.e. science, craft, design and technology, PE and games, and also mathematics. Anna's basic reading skills were excellent. Spelling is also developing well. However, her reading comprehension was found to be markedly below her basic reading level. She is a rapid silent reader. When a test question was asked, Anna often had to reread the passage in order to try to answer. Again, a significant difference between Anna's word recognition and her reading comprehension give cause for concern. Developmental information and discussion with the parent. Anna's birth was normal, it was reported. She was quite small at birth. There were no problems with her learning to walk and talk. However, her self-help skills were slower to develop, with dressing being particularly difficult for her. She still takes a long time to tie laces. Oh yeah, shoelaces. That literally took me so long to learn. Also, she cannot do jigsaws at all when small, her mum said. See, I'm not that stereotypical autistic who can do jigsaws. She attended nursery school where her problems with practical and motor skills were noted. Her parents felt that Anna's progress in primary school has been variable. She lacks confidence and only recently has made a particular friend. They told me of Anna's nervous anxieties. She washes her hands repeatedly at home and is worried about getting dirty. So why the hell did they not give me therapy when I was that age? I could have actually prevented the development of severe OCD. It makes me so angry. Look, it's in writing. Anna's parents are aware of her spatial difficulties and learning to swim has proved problematical for her. However, she can ride a bike. Parents are currently considering Anna's secondary education and want a mixed school close to home. One reason being her difficulties in directionality, making it a problem for her to find her way around. I'll talk more about those problems with directionality later on because, like I said, there's some nuance involved there. And so it depends what they're trying to assess again. Because I'm not sure I feel with some ways I'm okay with direction. It really varies, but I'll talk about that in another video anyway. Discussion with class teacher. Anna's organisational skills are very poor indeed. She finds it difficult to remember what goes where, so puts everything in one place. She finds artwork difficult, particularly mentioned were her attempts at silhouette and collage work. Anna has problems with team games. For example, in netball, Anna does not know which way to face or where she is on the court. Anna's responses are very slow indeed. She still seems like a little girl, both physically and emotionally. Anna has good verbal and basic reading skills. However, a highly significant difference was found between her verbal and non-verbal performance skills, the latter being at the first percentile. She has severe spatial, perception and directionality problems, which it is felt will require additional levels of support. At secondary school, Anna will need support for all practical subjects of the curriculum, i.e. technology subjects, science, geography, PE and games and mathematics. She will also need organisational support and help to find a way around the school. School should also be alert to Anna's reading comprehension difficulties. It is recommended that school apply for the initiation of special educational needs. This has been discussed with the parents who are in full agreement with the recommendation. It's got a list of objectives to continue to be aware of Anna's spatial and perception difficulties. A multi-sensory approach may help by Anna writing down directions, for example, and talking through activities. Literacy, Anna needs to be checked as regards her comprehension of what she has read. Perhaps she should be encouraged to slow down her speed of reading a little. Number, Anna continues to need specialised number skills programmes, bearing in mind her spatial weaknesses. Again, a multi-sensory approach may be helpful. And emotional, Anna's parents have been informed that if at any time Anna's emotional anxieties worsened, that help is available. Yeah, I really could have done without help, man. Tell me about it. She would benefit from confidence-building activities. Okay, 19th January 1998, educational psychology.